Welcome to Q&A Thursday. I'm JJ Filzanes, your host. Thank you for downloading today's episode. Today's question comes from Ashlyn. Ashlyn says, "Love your podcast. I have generalized anxiety, and listening to you talk about all the different topics associated with relationships really does help. I was wondering if you could do a podcast about control. I've noticed that my anxiety gets bad when I feel like I don't have control of a situation, and I don't think I'm a controlling person, on purpose at least. But I'm trying to get better about being okay with situations I can't control." Okay, this is a great topic. Thank you, Ashlyn, for asking this question. I know that I've answered it in roundabout ways on different shows, but let's break this down for a second. So first of all, what do we have control over? We really don't have control over too much in our lives. In fact, the only thing we really have control over is how we interpret information, how we react to that information, and the stories that we tell about it, and then any actions that we take based on that. So that's all the internal control that we're able to have. And many times, because people often get triggered by many things, you feel out of control. Because in that moment of emoting, you're not being logical, you're not being analytical, and that's okay because you're in a feeling place. But once we move that energy of that feeling and we allow it to be and we allow it to be released, then we can take a step back as an observer and look at the situation differently. Control is actually one of the biggest addictions that we have. And I did a show, and it lives on Fit to Love, and it lives on Spirit, Purpose, and Energy. And I'm not sure if it's on any of the other channels, but for sure, Fit to Love and Spirit, Purpose, and Energy has a show called Understanding and Healing Addiction. I would highly recommend everyone go back and find it. It's within the first 10 or 12 or 15 in Spirit, Purpose, and Energy. Like it might be episode 9 or 7 or something like that. But anyway, it's called Understanding and Healing Addiction. And if you're listening to that and you're thinking, but I'm not an addict, I don't do any drugs or drink or even drink coffee, control is probably your addiction. It's a soft addiction, but it's something that we all experience at different times. And depending on how much of a hold it has on you will determine how much of an addiction it is to actually allowing flow to happen in your life. So let's talk about control a little bit more. You cannot control. You can influence how other people show up for you based on law of attraction when you are in alignment with their best qualities, when you're in an alignment with what you want to see, with what you want to feel, and you're already feeling those things. You have the opportunity to influence situations and people by, again, tuning yourself to the best of what's available. When we look around and we think that others affect how we feel, we're giving our power away in essence, and now we feel out of control because we're in reaction mode, and some of those deepest, darkest subconscious triggers and wounds will be more easily exposed and triggered when we give our power away and we do not prepare ourselves to be in alignment with the best of the best. We're actually defaulting to our habits, and most of our habits are to be self-preserving and protective. So we often get triggered by other people's stuff. And again, it's our stuff. We think it's the other person, but it's not. So let's talk about the first sentence that you wrote here, Ashlyn. You said, "I have generalized anxiety." Okay, so think about the word general. It's general, like you have anxiety all the time. Well, what's at the root of that? Generally speaking, generalized, when we're talking about control, what control means is that you have a lack of trust. And that's really the bottom line. This is where I would invite all of you to really start to think about what your belief systems are. What is it that you believe? I think I've told this story before on the show, and I know I've told it to certain clients. A past relative and I were having a conversation. This person is highly political and very much in the news. I, however, am not either those things. I stay away from the news and I'm not political. And she was, not in a tight knot about it and feeling like the world was going to fall apart and I can't believe what's going on and it's so terrible. And I said to her, "Do you believe in God? Now, I knew that she intellectually believed in God because she went to church. And she said, well, yes, I do. I go to church every week. I said, okay, do you think God has a plan? And she stopped in her tracks. And I said, then let God work his plan or her plan or its plan. I said the word God. I believe in God, but I said the word God because I knew it would resonate with her. I would say source energy, so it's more neutral because I don't believe it's feminine or masculine. I believe it's pure positive energy that's both masculine and feminine. But whatever word you need to use to personalize it for you to feel better is what I would invite you all to do. So if you believe in God, if you believe in source, if you believe in universe, if you believe in creator, if you believe in whatever, if you really believe that there is something greater than you, or if you believe that you incarnated with a mission to learn a lesson in this lifetime, that you've been here before, that energy cannot be created nor destroyed, and that you are here for a purpose, there is a trust, that is a feeling within that belief that will ground you and cease anxiety. Anxiety is a body sensation. It's not a feeling. It's a body sensation. It means that you have a lot of emotion that needs to be expressed, processed, examined, and released. So when you're looking at why do I have anxiety all the time? Well, there's possibly a constant belief that you're not safe, a constant belief that things don't work out for you, a constant belief that you're not protected, or that there isn't a reason for some of these things that are happening, or that somehow you're a victim to circumstance and you've got no influence. So I would invite you, Ashlyn, and everyone else listening and I know that I've seen some things on Facebook recently, and yes, there are neurochemical, there are biochemical reasons why our bodies can be in a certain state of not feeling balanced. In fact, I've heard people that have gone gluten-free who feel calmer, and all they did was remove gluten. They didn't remove carbs. They still ate a lot of sugar, but they removed gluten and they felt calmer. So there are definitely biochemical and neurochemical things that you can do to help your body feel strong and centered and calmer. Absolutely. I'm not suggesting that that is not a thing. Same thing with watching television, being on your phone too much. That electromagnetic frequency, even if you're not aware of it and you're living in it and you're around it, you're in a room full of computers, that will absolutely take you off balance and will create some extra energy in your nervous system that could disrupt your emotions. And you will think it's just because you're emotional. And it could just be that you're in an environment that is so highly charged electronically and electrically that you need a break. You need to ground. So on the level of anxiety, there are several things we can look at, right? But generally speaking, once you do all those things, and those things are important, if you still have a level of nervous energy, of constant looking over your shoulder, of depression, of being unsettled, not having a strong foundation, we have to examine your level of trust. Now, this is where I guess the religious beliefs come in, the spiritual beliefs come in, because I believe that if you believe that you're only here for one lifetime, and I'm not suggesting this is bad or wrong, so please hear me properly, hear my heart. I respect if you're part of a religion that you love and you feel is the right way and the right thing to do, that says that we're only here one time. Okay. In fact, my bookkeeper, I just learned, is a Jehovah's Witness. Had no idea. And so we talked about it because I was curious. I said, what do Jehovah's Witnesses believe about past lives? And she said that they don't believe in multiple lives. And I said, okay. And we had a very lovely discussion about energy. And I wasn't trying to convince her. I was just explaining that my belief is that, in physics, energy can't be created nor destroyed. It's recycled. So when we die, our bodies stop working. Our soul, which is energy, reemerges. And she said, we would say that your soul or your energy goes back to God. And I said, okay, so the difference is that I believe that we continue to recycle because energy can't be created nor destroyed. So we recycle, we come back down, we evolve. To me, it makes the most amount of sense. And again, this wasn't a discussion or argument. It was a 3-second conversation because we were talking about the foster cats that I had, and 2 of them had died. One in my care and one one had to be put down and the other one after that they left me. And my belief that the one who was here, she was just here to help heal me, and she'll be back. She came in quickly and she left, and she'll come back. Now, it didn't make losing her easier in the moment, but there was a trust that I have in this process of life that we're here for a reason, that we decided to come down, that we have chosen this path for a reason. Because here's the bottom line. Let's say I'm wrong. Let's say that the people who believe we're only here once are correct, and the people who believe God is a man and that you will be judged and you'll go to hell or you'll go to purgatory. Let's say those people are right and that I'm completely wrong. My belief system that I have chosen to believe in because it resonates with me feels good. It feels good to think and to believe that I don't have to get it all done, that I am coming back, that I'm supposed to be focused on joy, that I'm supposed to be taking things with a grain of salt and being easier about things. That feels good to me. So I'm going to choose that belief because it feels good. And therefore, it makes me happier and it helps me to feel peace and calm. For me, choosing a belief that says I'm not coming back and that incarnation and reincarnation is not a thing and that I have one lifetime to prove myself, otherwise I don't go to heaven, well, that stresses me out. And if it's true, that's cool. I will figure it out when I get there. But if I think about it now, I think that would add a level of anxiety to my life that I'm not interested in. I like feeling peace and calm. So this is really when we focus on the word control, you really have to decide what you are trusting in, and are you really trusting? Back in the day, I don't remember when exactly, but it was probably after my book launch, the Fit to Love book launch, I had manifested a business partner. And of course, it was a perfect situation. And I had said up front that I wanted to get some momentum going and that I didn't want to do everything by myself, and it had to have a sort of energy of its own to build and grow on its own. And that if I was faced with doing everything myself, that I wouldn't want to do it. And when we got to, let's see, the book was launched February, I think 7th or 9th, 2011. And by October of 2011, I found myself back to square one, having to be the producer on all levels. Website, marketing, Facebook, blah, blah, blah. Like everything was me doing it. I had no support. That wasn't the point of having an investor. It was supposed to make the business, it was supposed to invest into different support systems that would help create momentum that would help the business continue. Well, when we got to October and I got triggered by another business coach who I was at the time following, and she was sort of using law of attraction as a hook, like a negative hook, basically telling people that if you believe that all you need to do is sit around and meditate, that you're not going to get anywhere. And I know that the intention was to hook people in so they would hire her so they could take action. I got the reason. But at the same time, I was like, you know what? This isn't for me anymore. I'm done with you. And I unsubscribed. So after I unsubscribed, I also stopped sending emails. I stopped marketing. I stopped doing everything for almost 1 full year. Because in that moment, I realized that I had been operating my business from a place of anxiety, from a place of thinking about the future, but worried about it, not trusting. I mean, it wasn't that long ago. I mean, I guess 2011. In retrospect, it's 8 years ago. But I understood the law of attraction the same as I do now. The difference is I intellectually understood it. I wasn't living it. So when I decided to live it, it meant to surrender, to stop coming from the place of fear and coming from a place of joy. Wanting to do things only after being completely inspired and feeling in alignment and feeling happiness and freedom and love, and not doing things out of coming from fear. So that's the difference. So I hope that makes sense, Ashlyn. Control is because we don't trust. Because the reality is there is really very little in life you can control. Very little. Again, it's what you're focused on, what you're feeling in the way of, let's say you get triggered. Can you control that first trigger moment? No. But the second after you acknowledge the trigger, You get to control the story you tell. Therefore, you control the interpretation of that situation, and then you control how you feel about it because you've made up a story about it, because you've interpreted it. And then you get to control what you do about it and how you react to it. And that's it. You control your thoughts, your feelings, your actions, and your reactions. Otherwise, everything else that exists outside of you is not in your control. But it is influenced by what is inside of you, hence the law of attraction. So if you're attracting more and more things in your life that make you feel out of control, it's probably a message that it's time to dig a little deeper and figure out where you have a lack of trust, figure out what you believe, and then really examine your life so that you are living your beliefs. You are feeling your beliefs. You are surrendered to your beliefs, and you are working in conjunction with your beliefs and not operating just from your head. The reason why I think I'm pretty good at law of attraction is because I've experienced all of this. I took it in intellectually. I understood it intellectually, all parts of it. But at one point had to check myself and go, you're not living it. Because if you were really living it, then you wouldn't be stressed out right now. And you wouldn't be exactly where you were a year ago. And you wouldn't have to be working so hard, and you wouldn't feel this fear of the future. So I would recommend everyone examine what you believe on the deepest of levels. Do you really believe in the God or the universe or source or creator as you say that you do? I think one of my biggest pet peeves with churches and certain religious people is the hypocrisy. They'll say they believe in God, they surrender to God, yet they're constantly worried. Well, how does that match up? If you believe in God, let God do God's work. So you can just be a co-creator with God versus that you feel somehow you have to prove yourself. And that's why I don't do that kind of religion. For those of you that haven't listened to all of my shows, I believe that we are a part of God, part of source, a part of creator. That just like the sun, if you're making the sun God, you are a sunbeam. You are an extension of and made up of exactly the same energy as what we call God or source. We are not separate then. We are not less than, and we are just an extension of. So if you could walk into your life with the belief that you are part of God, you are God energy, how would that change how you feel about your life? You are source. You are creator. And you are physically focused here in this body to bring creator energy onto earth and to expand with contrast. We cannot grow without things happening to us. We cannot, it's never a tune yourself to a happy frequency and then you're going to live there for the rest of your life. There's no expansion in that. We keep coming to keep expanding. And it's evident in our children. It's evident in our politics. It's evident in how what we want now is different than what they wanted 20, 30, 40 years ago. So when you think that you're someone who needs control, examine that control is only because you feel out of control, because you lack trust. And the only alignment, the only amount of support that you really, really need is from source and yourself. You as part of source energy. You as part of creator energy. You as part of God energy. Everything else falls in alignment when you are in alignment with who you really are. So I hope that helped. Nice short show for my Q&A Thursday. I'll see you guys back here next week.